well, this entire year, I haven't had one single day of vacation. I've been watching all my favorite movies, the series. No, just kidding. I've been working. I assume people who know me know that I run a website called Gypsy Music School, where many artists, such as nous'che right here on my left, they come here, record lessons. I produce these lessons. I make these things happen. I was born and raised in Montreal, Quebec. My parents are from Taiwan, tiny little island, south of Japan, east of China. And my parents had to flee Taiwan because of the former Chinese government known as the KMT. Led by Chiang Kai-shek, who was not a very good person, so I don't want to talk about politics, but unfortunately they had to leave Taiwan. And my father was, he believed that Europe was the future. This was back in the 60s, 70s, so he was, is that word, a Europhile?
Mm-hmm.
So he left Taiwan to go to Switzerland, where he studied economics and everything. He spoke French, English, German, and a few other languages a little bit. So he was just really into Europe. Then, with my mother, he decided for some reason he wanted to go to Canada. The original plan was to move to Vancouver, like all good Asians. But when he first stopped in Montreal. So, on his way to Vancouver, I think the story is that he first stopped in Montreal, right here. And he had a friend who told him, you speak French so well. Why don't you just stay here? I can get you a job teaching French, literature or something. So that's what he did. He taught for a while here. And that's why my brothers and I have French names. And that's why we grew up here. And my name is actually with one N, Denis. But if I say Denis and I speak English, it sounds very pretentious. So I prefer when you speak English to me, you call me Dennis. Because it's just so pretentious otherwise. So this business of mine, people tend to think that it's just gypsy jazz, but it's not actually. I have many artists of different styles, and the reason why there's more gypsy jazz than others is because I'm, for the past more than 15 years now, I've been involved in this style of music, and so this is where I have most of my connections. So the reason why I'm able to get X, Y, Z artist is mainly through connections because I'm part of this community. But no, we have different styles as well. We have Pat Martino, Ulf Vakenius, who played with Oscar Peterson. Next year, I have a lot of fantastic musicians like Donald Trump. This started 10 years ago when I have a friend in Toronto, Canada, who has a publishing company, DVD publishing company. And we sort of talked about making like DVD lessons for rhythm, gypsy jazz rhythm. So I did that almost 10 years ago. And I never thought it would sell well. I thought it was just going to be something that Americans would buy. People, in those days, gypsy jazz was not as popular as it is today, if it is even popular. But, I made this thing for people who, like me, are far away from where the hot action is. So I thought that was just for that market. But then we did that DVD and it ended up we sold everything within 1 year. I think they printed 1,000 DVDs and it was all gone in less than a year. So, and from all over the world. And very surprising, people in France were buying it when they have access to the best already. So that was very, I guess, shocking. Not necessarily in a bad way, but I was surprised. So yeah, the information that I did was mainly for people who were in countries, cities where there was no Gypsy jazz. So that ended up doing so well that I thought, okay, well, why not do another series of DVDs? That money I didn't actually keep it for myself. I told the company, well, let's use this money that I made to make more of other things. So I talked. By that time, I had, not that I'm good today, and not that I was ever good, but I had accumulated quite a lot of knowledge because I was traveling regularly to Europe to play with, hang out with great musicians. Anyway, yeah, so I did some lessons on how to play this style, the way to hold the pick, all that stuff. And again, I was very surprised that it ended up doing so very well. So I thought, well, this, it's very hard to make a living as a musician, and this helped a lot. It's what allowed me to go travel to Europe regularly to learn more. But anyway, so I thought, what's the next step? Well, why don't I invite other artists? So I think the first one was Tim Kliphaus, violinist. So I said, would you like to do a series of lessons on violin? Yeah, sure, why not? So that thing did well. Then I said, okay, what next? Then I asked my friend Vavau Adler. He said, yes, let's do it. And then next step, Stochelo. And so I was like, it actually, it worked decently. So I decided I needed to do this on my own, so I can do a better job first of all, because not that I'm a control freak, but when you know how to do things, it's best that you do as much as possible on your own. Second of all, it cuts out the middleman. So that allows me to give much more to the artists than having to split 3 different people. So I give quite a lot to my artists, and as far as I know, there is no other company that gives as much to the artists. I've seen the figures of other companies, what they offer the artists. No one comes close to what I give. And the reason why I can do this is because I do almost everything on my own. I had to learn how to record. I had to learn how to edit videos, how to use this, that. And this answers your question, why am I so busy? The reason why I can give so much to my artists and give so much to my customers for so little is because I'm always working.
And you do all the work that other people hire an entire staff for.
Yeah, the budgets for certain instructional videos can be quite high. Mine is still expensive, but it's really, I save so much.
I understand. You also must learn a lot actually by inviting all those amazing musicians.
Yes, I learned that I'm not meant to be a musician.
Styles. Ça, that's beautiful number.
C'est bon? Beautiful song. Furufapi. Da da da
Yes?
Furufapi, aber da da di da da da.
No.
Okay, we got the picture. For this style of music, I'm mainly self-taught. Quite a lot of things I had to discover on my own, so it was quite difficult. And in order to learn how to do these things, I had to learn how to observe. When I got interested in Django, it was through a friend of mine who told me to listen to Stochelo, to Rafael Faiz. Those are the two first artists, and of course the Django. Those were the three that I started with. And since I'm from Canada, where there's no gypsy jazz player whatsoever, at least not like the ones you can find in Europe, and I had to learn on my own through recordings and whatever videos existed back in the day. So the only one that existed back in the day, that was you could easily buy on the internet, was a video called Django Legacy. So I had that cassette tape, VHS, and I would look at Stochelo's right hand and do everything I could to copy as much as I could. And in those days, I had a friend who told me, he was playing gypsy jazz as well, and he told me, you know, Dennis, you and I, we're not gypsies, we can never play like them. And that was a very shocking statement. And I have OCD. I'm the kind of person who, when he starts something, has to finish, or else I go insane. So, luckily I speak French, I speak a little bit of German, and I started going to Europe to befriend good musicians. One of the first that I ever met, well, first of all, there was also Stéphane Ranvel. From New York, who but spent a lot of time in gypsy camps in France. I met him almost 15 years ago, and he was one of the first to really encourage me to go for it. I was very shy about it. They said, go for it. So, thank you, Stéphane. But then I befriended a French gypsy by the name of Ritari Gaganetti and his cousin Hervé. Especially Hervé became a very good friend of mine, and I would spend some time at his home and everything, and that was where it started, the whole immersion thing. I was so obsessed with this idea of what it meant to play like a gypsy, and that's a huge topic, but it was an obsession of mine. And when I listen to Sinti musicians play, I hear a difference. It's not a difference of like good or better, but there is they have a certain sound that I heard in Django too. So this sound, I was so obsessed with it. A lot of people will say it's in the right hand, but no, it's in a lot of things. It's in the way they think. It's in the way. So I started befriending them. It started with music, of course, but then I found out some of these people became very, very close friends with me. So I started with the Gaganetti family in France, but then slowly I met this, I met that person, and my social network, as far as this community is concerned, grew a lot. And for some reason, I have a pretty good memory for a lot of things. Not number. Oh, I'm very bad at remembering people's names. But for a lot, I can learn entire songs, entire set lists in one day. I can learn a Django solo and play it back in 1 hour or two. I'll forget it the next day though. But so I have a very good memory. So spending a lot of time with this community, I learned. I can't say that I speak their language, but I learned a lot of words just by listening. In the beginning, I didn't do much of an effort until maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But yes, so being able to communicate with these people, my friends, allowed me to understand more of how they think and everything. And I found that there's a strong correlation between how they play and the way they are. And that's what really, when you say the Gypsy sound, that's what it is. And I can't really explain more than that. You'll have to go much deeper. So yes, that was something that I was very obsessed with. And nothing made me, in those days, nothing made me happier when people would tell me, in that community, would tell me, you sound just like us, you sound just like us, Gypsy. And I was like, yes. Take that, my friend who told me that we could never play like that.
Exactly.
But anyway, again, this is not a question of better or worse nowadays. In fact, today I'm way past that. I'm not really interested in wanting to sound like X or Y or anything. And I would say, ultimately, I just want to play in a way that pleases me, and I've yet to achieve that. My thing, DC Music School, obviously is my livelihood. But at the same time, it's not like money is not like my biggest priority for this, even though it's what I depend on. For me, it's all about content and the quality of content. And in this industry, the educational industry, there's more money to be made in products and popular products that cater to beginners than anything else. But me, it's the other way around. I created this website for people like me who struggle so hard wanting to learn this music but having no access to resources. If you're in Paris watching this, you'll never understand what it's like to be from, let's say, Alaska, wanting to learn the music of Django, to be from Singapore or something, wanting to learn to play bebop or whatever. Music to me is about community. It's not about learning scales or arpeggios. That stuff is great, don't get me wrong, but what's far more important, I learned this through music of Django, is community and being part of a community, eating with people, telling jokes, living with them. That affects the way we approach music so much.
And that is actually what you literally do in your house. You invite your students to
Yes.
stay with you.
Yes.
And for how long do they stay sometimes?
However long they want.
And how
My
long can
current
they be?
guy, the longest I've had was 2 months.
2 months.
The current one from Alaska is staying 6 weeks.
And they stay just in your house.
They stay in my house, and I'm very happy that most of them, vast majority of them, spend all day practicing. That's the way. Anyway, so yes, this DC Music School, it's, for some people if you're from that community, you will never understand what it's like to be from a community that has it so hard. And that's what DC Music School can never be. Nothing will ever replace being somewhere. But this is sort of the closest you can get, So what I do, I invite all these artists with their own unique, top players, first of all. I don't get just anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But great musicians, and they each have their own vision of music. And sometimes what they say contradict each other. And that's the point. is that you can hear from different perspectives and you can therefore form your own. Because you have to be part of a community, but you also have to learn to be yourself. Sort of like a coin. You have two sides, or yin and yang, that kind of stuff, day and night, as Pat Martino says. And that, I find that to be very, very true. You have to understand the culture, but you also have to learn to be yourself. Mr. Bear is a very, very, very famous guitar player. He travels the world with me. He's played with Biréli Lagrène, Angelo Debar, Sébastien Junior. I don't know who else. He's played with many, many, many great artists. He came into my life 3 years ago.
And did he come with somebody or was he traveling by himself?
He was traveling by himself in a FedEx box.
Nous'che. Oh.